Let me put on my clinician's hat first, because it is my culture, my story. I'm a heart surgeon. And when I hear about this fraud, I think about patients who have trusted us, people who are at their most vulnerable time looking for the protection of our services. And too often these criminal entities have tried to pierce that trust. When you walk into the Health and Human Services building not far from here, there's a quote from Hubert Humphrey, from whom the building is named. And it says, "It is the moral obligation of government," that's what we're doing here today, "it's the moral obligation of government to protect those who are at the dawn of their life, our children, those at the twilight of their life, our seniors, and those living in the shadows, folks who are having trouble like the substance use disorder mentioned a second ago by Juliet." I want to applaud.
Yeah, and I have a special place in my heart for those who've been taken advantage of when they're supposed to be getting treatment, right? People who are addicts are in their most vulnerable positions, like their lives are basically over, they're at rock bottom. And so when you are in a treatment facility and you're like, we're going to take good care of you, and then you don't, you just take a human body and just throw it in a bed and let them rot there, then that is a violation of a sacred trust. And a lot of them have a very nice front-facing sales pitch. Really nice people, up front desk looks nice and amazing, and then they just shove people in a gutter back in some alley somewhere, and it's pretty bad. And they no, we're just gonna move them away from you. So they're like isolated away from their families and everything. And you're like, what? They're like in a gutter. All right, anyways. But some are amazing, to be clear. But he's right about this, right? I think that this is might be biblical in addition to wherever he's drawing it from, but societies will be judged by how they care for their weak, their infirm, their elderly, their youth, their disabled. How do you care for those people? I think it's a good measure of how a society is.
All the agencies that collaborated today, because when President Trump signed the executive order on fraud, waste, and abuse, a pledge to crush this reality, this is exactly what he had in mind. At Health and Human Services, under leadership of Secretary Kennedy, we have strived to break down barriers and silos in every way possible. What you're witnessing on stage today is exactly that. The American government at its best, making sure all of us work together for the same common purpose, in this case, especially, expressly to protect those who are our most vulnerable. Because all great societies are judged by how they take care of those who are vulnerable, and we are great people. We will do that.
We are.
So to the OIG, the DOJ, who's hosting us, the FBI, DEA, and other agencies that are engaged. And let me ask Kim stand in the back. Kim Grant runs, Chief Operating Officer and Deputy Administrator at CMS. She runs the fraud unit, and I'll speak about some of the work she and her team have been doing in my comments today. It is, and you'll hear this said by all of us, and we should, the largest Department of Justice healthcare fraud takedown in history. The fact that it's even possible that you could have $15 billion to play in this endeavor is shameful. But that's how we're being attacked now, and it's not done by small-time operators. As you're hearing about and you will read about, these are organized syndicates who are designing to hurt America. And why do they hurt our healthcare system? CMS is probably the largest target of all, responsible for about $1.7 trillion of disbursements. So it's a big target on our side.
Yeah, that's a big part of the problem, too. It's the fact that our government just has a $1.7 trillion trough that everybody can just come up and just slurp it all up and get as much as they can. Nobody can tell. Just feeding frenzy with a big government pot of money and cash.